Good morning, Floss Tube. It's Julie with Reflections Framing and Stitching. Today is Saturday. It is the 28th of May, and this is Chart of the Week video number 134. Welcome. How are you? I'm doing much better than I was last weekend, so that's a good thing. I was sick. I had Reese the weekend before, and I swear every time that little girl and I are together, I end up sick. And sure enough, she sneezed in my face on Sunday, and by Tuesday I had a sore throat starting. Wednesday, a cough started in, continued to go downhill on Thursday. Friday, I was coughing so bad I couldn't have carried on a conversation if I had tried. So I did end up closing the shop for Friday and Saturday. Sunday got a little bit better, and by Monday I was finally feeling better. The cough was manageable. I still didn't have much of a voice, but I was feeling better. So Tuesday I was back to work. So that is why there was no video last week. I had no voice. I was coughing. I did Zoom Saturday night. I probably shouldn't have, but I figured I could sit there while they all chatted, and Mary, one of the people that Zooms with me, she sent me a text the next morning to see how I was doing and said, "You belong in a tent with steam. You sound like you have croup." I would agree. I probably should have been in a tent with steam, but oh well. I'm better now. I'm back. I hope you had a great weekend last weekend, and I hope your week was good and full of stitching. I haven't stitched a whole lot in the last 2 weeks, so maybe tonight. Last night, Dan and I did our first deck sitting night. He put the canopy up yesterday, which absolutely guarantees we will have a storm probably this weekend with high winds, and it will blow away. I don't know if he'll take it down. We actually are predicted now to have high winds, so I don't know if we'll take it back down before then. But last night it was wonderful. The bugs are back, so I was glad that he'd put it up. It was a beautiful, beautiful evening. We sat outside and visited with Alex and Emily. Alex just got her new car, so she brought it over to show us. And we just sat and chatted and had a good time. It was good. But I didn't stitch, so no stitching last night. What else do I know? Probably Connie was here for a couple of days. She stayed with Dan and I. And she's coming back a week from Tuesday. She'll stay with us a couple of days again, and then she's going to house sit for someone. So it's good to see her. We did squeeze in on Monday afternoon because I was feeling better. We did squeeze in a trip to the Brass Armadillo, and I found some treasures, which I'll share at some point. I'm not sure when. So that was fun. It's always good to be around Connie. Connie and I should not be let loose in public unsupervised. But we had a good time. We did have a good time. So let's see. Last video of the week. You guys did wonderful on the comments. It was 97 comments. I think that's the most I've ever had, like ever. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. I do appreciate it. I know a lot of you watch videos on your TV, and no, there is no way to leave a comment if you're doing that. What I usually do is I keep my phone next to me, and I just comment on the phone when I'm watching the video. So but I understand it does make it a little harder to leave a comment, but for those of you who did, thank you so much. The question from the last video was if you stitch in the season or prior to the season, or, you know, seasonal stitching, and the large majority of you do not. You stitch kind of like I do. Whatever mood strikes you is what you stitch. So I'm glad I have company on that one. And then a lot of you liked the dolphin fabric that I showed with that particular chart, which I thought was really pretty also. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. Comments from last time that I wanted to address. I have them written down. Several of you had commented you were just coming back to stitching, either just beginning or coming back after 20 years of being away, and I just wanted to say welcome. I'm glad you're back, and we're really happy to have you. Kathy asked if stitching on 40 count raw natural is any easier than stitching on a 40 count overdyed. That's a tough one for me to answer because I don't have a problem stitching on either. I know a lot of people don't like to stitch on Picture This Plus 40 count because they say it's just too tight. And I think a part of that could be the size needle you're using. Again, I don't have a problem. One would assume, since raw natural is not dyed, that it might not be quite as tight. I would say give it a try. You never know unless you try. Kathy had stitched on some 40 count before, but she said it just was difficult for her. I just want to say one more time, you have to give it more than a day or two for your eyes to adjust. I'd say give it at least a week and not switch to something else. You know, don't go from 40 count to 32 count because your eyes will never get used to it at that point. I am working right now on a couple of different pieces. One of them is on 28 count over 2, which is big for me. But it's for retreat, so I don't ever do a 40 count project for retreat because I know that not everybody can see on 40 count or is comfortable on 40 count, and but I do know that everyone can do 28 count. You know, anyone that can stitch on 40 count can stitch on 28 count. They may not enjoy it as much, but they can do it. So I never use the upper count. So anyway, that I'm working on that for retreat for fall. But I'm also working on that Frederick 40 count over 1. And you know, if I work on the retreat project, the 28 count, for a couple of days, it's hard for me even to get back into the 40 count. I have to give my eyes a couple of days to adjust before I'm like, oh, okay, this is easy again. So you got to give your eyes time to adjust. Even on that tighter weave of Picture This Plus, use the right size needle, which you may have to go to like a number 10 beading needle, and give your eyes time. That's my advice on that. So Kathy, I hope that answered your question. Jan R commented that she's using, she liked the project I showed in the last video, and she's putting it on her wish list, but currently she's stitching from her stash. I think it's her linen stash she was stitching on because she doesn't want to leave so much behind for her kids to deal with. Jan, I just got to say I'm not worried about that at all. My kids are just going to have to deal with whatever is left. I'm not too worried about it. Adam's already told me he's putting a dumpster in the driveway and everything's going in there. So if that's the case, it won't take him too long. I mean, he can dump it all. It's not like he's going to go through it and try and parse it out to anyone. He can just dump it all. So I don't worry about that so much. Vicki asked, let's see. Vicki, again, was talking about linen, but didn't find it enjoyable, and she wanted to know if even weave looks more like linen or Aida. And I would have to say that even weave probably looks a little more like linen. Some people find it easier to stitch on because all of the threads are the same thickness, so the holes are more, oftentimes a little more pronounced. Not all the time. 32 count even weave is pretty tight. But the threads are all the same thickness, and sometimes the unevenness of the threads on linen is what throws people off. And you just treat them all the same. The thin threads are treated the same as the fat threads. It's a thread, so you're going to go over it like you would. So it may be slightly easier because there's not that variation in thickness that can throw you off. So I would say just give it a try. And again, give your eyes time to adjust, and you should be fine. Sue wants to know if Regina Heibel, the chart that I showed the last time, was as washed out as the picture makes it look. And I would say yes, it is. It is a very pale color palette. And so, yes, it does look very soft and kind of washed out. But you can offset that by putting it like on the darker fabric, and the colors would be a little more bright. And Beverly, you said you were waiting for me to show a more peach tone of fabric. And I tried. I did try, but the color palette, a lot of the colors did not show up on a peachier fabric. So hold on just a minute. Good morning. Okay, I'm back. I think I was talking about the peach colored fabric, but it's been like 20 minutes. So anyway, I tried on the peach fabric. The floss just didn't show up, so I couldn't do that. Hold on.
Hi.
Can I help you? Okay, something weird has, this is the second time this person has come in here. She looks like, I don't want to judge, but anyway, she's been in twice. She's asked me if I have $1. She's got thigh-high boots on, a very short skirt, and a see-through lace top. It's been a couple months since the last time she was in, but I don't know what the scam is. It's got to be something. No, I don't have $1 for you. Anyway, so Beverly, I hope that answered your question. Several of you mentioned that I shouldn't worry about the lack of comments, but I'm a worrier. I always think I've done something wrong. I mean, I'll get an email from someone who's purchased something, and the first thing I'll think is, what did I screw up? So when people don't comment, that's my first thought is, what did I say that offended someone? Because I never mean to offend anyone, but sometimes I'm a little more blunt than what people like, and you know, I try, but it is who I am. So anyway, I will try not to worry if there's a lack of comments, but I do like the comments. So anyway, how about if we get started with today's chart of the week? And it's different from what I was going to do. I had a different chart I was going to do, and then I sold the last copy of it, so I reordered it, and it didn't come in, so we'll save that one for next week. And I chose another one last night before I went home. So this week we are featuring Vintage Flowers 2 from Jeannette Douglas Designs. This came out at Market. It's one of the ones that I really like, and no one has given it any kind of notice here in my store. Maybe somewhere else, but not here in the store. But I pretty much, look at the beautiful the beautiful butterfly. You could put that on a pillow. This rose, the rose, you could do that as a pin pillow. It kind of has almost like a patriotic look to it with the red, white, and the blue. I don't think it is. You know, the bird is cool. I just think it's a very pretty piece, and no one has looked at it. So I thought, well, how about we do that? So let me get the information on it. It calls for 40 count rustic charm from Seraphim. But she says it would look equally well on any of your favorite hand-dyed or neutral linen fabrics. So I did pull several neutral fabrics for this one just because she said so. Just to show you that if you don't have the fabric, the neutral fabric called for, there are options. There are always options. I always recommend pulling your floss first, as I've said before, and doing a floss toss. Like, I choose no fabric without pulling my floss first, just because I want to make sure I like how it looks on there. Stitch count is 152 by 158, so it's not huge. And it uses a combination of Weeks Dye Works and a couple of Classic Colorworks, and I think there was one, yeah, it actually called for, now the Uniform Blue from Gentle Arts, that's what it is, Uniform Blue, but I don't have it. So I have subbed in Blacksmith Blue for Uniform Blue, and I was out of Oscar, so I subbed in Gentle Arts and Endive. Endive, Endive. I'm not sure which way you pronounce it. I say Endive. So I've subbed those two in. The rest are all the called for colors, and they look like that. So there's some reds, some greens, a blue, a couple of yellowy, the lightest color being this, which is light khaki, I believe. But that's the color palette. It's really pretty. I want to make sure I hold that still. I was watching a video, not a floss tube video, but it was an auction, an antique or vintage auction, and the guy constantly was moving the thing around. Dan and I were both like, would you hold it still so we could see it? So I want to make sure I hold it still so you can see it. Okay, so it calls for rustic charm. I have one tiny little piece of rustic charm left, and it's 32 count. It is not big enough, but I did want you to see the color. It's a pretty, and it looks pretty close to the picture. So it's a golden color, but it's got blush in it. So it's got a hint of the pinky to it. Let's see, does that help any? Maybe. Maybe. Okay, and then this is what your colors look like on that, which is very nice, very pretty. Try and spread them out a little bit. Okay. So that is the called for. And I didn't have anything really close to it, but I tried to get as close as I could. This is 18 count aged paper. It's a color in cotton. It's an Aida for you Aida stitchers. It's lighter than the Rustic charm, but I think it will look fine. This is, and I'm doing all these neutrals first, just so you can see all the different neutrals that this will look good with. This is 40 count chocolate milk from Hand Dyed by Stephanie. This is 18 count Tobias from Seraphim. We have 36 count vintage country Mocha would be an excellent choice also. This is 40 count Prairie Grass. I want to say Prairie Grass is Seraphim, but I could be wrong on that, and my label, it's cut off, so I don't know. I can't get them spread out. There. This one, you're either probably going to love it or you're going to hate it, one of the two. It is from Fox and Rabbit. It's called Duxbury, and it is a very highly distressed linen. But please remember, when you have a busy linen and you stitch on it, it becomes less busy, because obviously you're covering some of that distressing. So by the time you stitched on it, it probably isn't going to look quite as busy. I have a lot of stitchers that come in and, oh, that's too busy, and it really isn't by the time you stitch on it. And again, this is Fox and Rabbit Saltbush, and it is a 40 count. It's kind of a khaki green. It's quite neutral. And then we're going to move into a little bit of color. Couldn't go with a real green because of all the greens that were in here. And I had a dark blue I wanted to try, but then the dark blue doesn't show up. So that's why having your floss is a good idea. This is 16 count Arctic Glacier from Seraphim. It is a light blue, but it has some gray modeling to it. And I think it would be very pretty on there. Let's see, can we spread those out a little bit more? And this, you might think, would be a concern, but I think it would actually be fine. I should have looked at the chart to see where it falls, but I didn't. My bad. This is Dapple. It is a 40 count from Picture This Plus. And this particular batch of Dapple leans a little more blue-gray than the last batch I had. I think it would be pretty on there too. And probably one of my favorites is Boston from Seraphim. She just has a lot of colors that I like. Boston being one of them. I think this would give it a very vintagey look. This is 36 count Boston, I think. Or is it 32? Nope, sorry. 32 count Boston. And that was the last fabric I have to show you. So which one was your favorite? Like I said, I think Boston is probably my favorite, or one of the neutrals. It looks good on that too. Let's see. We need a question of the day for today. And so I thought I would ask you what your favorite non-necessity needlework tool is. So by that I mean you have to have a chart, you have to have scissors, you have to have floss, you have to have fabric in order to stitch. You do not need to have a frame of some kind. You can stitch without one. It might be difficult, but you can where those others you have to have those. So I'm looking for a non-essential tool or accessory that you really like having. Oh, that's a big spider. Thankfully he's on the outside, I think. Sorry, spiders. So a tool or accessory that you really like to have when you stitch. Whether it's a useful, thing like your corner gauge, or just a pretty thing like your scissor frogs. What is your favorite stitchy accessory? Right now, I would have to say that it would be my iPad. I think I talked about it a few videos back where I am using that Notes Plus Pro program on my iPad, and I'm putting my charts into that and then stitching from my iPad, and I can make it nice and big because I'm getting older and my eyes are getting worse, whether I want to admit it or not. They are getting worse. So I can make it larger, I can color off, I can sit it on the arm of the chair. I don't have to be fussing with a paper chart. I didn't ever imagine I would ever give up paper charts. But I did have to use my paper chart once this week. And it's just kind of a pain in the butt for me because I got to pick it up. I got to, hold it at the right length so I can read it. And sometimes you got to hold it and stitch at the same time so you can see what you're stitching, or you're constantly picking up, putting down, picking up, putting down. And it has just simplified my stitching experience in a way that I just didn't expect. So now he might be inside. I might need to kill him. I think he's making a nice big old web up there is what he's doing. Anyway, sorry, I just really hate spiders. I have a fear of them. So that's your question of the day. What is your favorite non-necessity stitching item? And with that, I think I will probably let you go. What are your plans for your weekend? I don't really have any this weekend. I have several things that I want to maybe try doing. I want to work outside. I need to get a couple baskets of flowers, and so I want to do that. Probably, do a little cleaning. The bedroom and bathroom are as done as I think they're going to get. So I was thinking about trying to do a video of that, because I promised way back when we first started that I would share the progress with you, and I never did. So I'm thinking I would do a video on that so you can see how it turned out. Dan has to finish up the second bathroom, which I don't know if I told you about that. We kind of had a suspicion that the toilet in the other bathroom was leaking, and one thing led to another. He ended up totally almost gutting the bathroom, so we're getting it put back together. The new floor is down, the new toilet is in. We decided to put up some wainscoting in there. He's got that up, but he's doing the cap along the top. The vanity itself is back in. It's not hooked up, and we got the new vanity top because he broke the old one in half. So the new vanity top is sitting waiting to be put on the top of the vanity, and I'm hoping we get it all done before Connie comes back, because she did not have full use of the bathroom while she was there. So I'm hoping it will be put back together and done before she gets back. So Dan will probably work on that. He was going to mow today. Other than that, if it's not got awful hot, it's supposed to get into the 90s, I think, tomorrow. But I would like a little more deck sitting time before we have to take the canopy down again. Other than that, I really don't have any plans. I'll Zoom tonight and stitch, and that's about it. I'm not planning to see the grandkids this weekend, so I should be good for another week without being sick. I do need to go get my second booster because numbers are creeping up, but I've been so sick I haven't wanted to go and get my booster because it makes me sick. So I'll give myself this weekend and maybe get my second booster next Friday, providing I'm still healthy, and so I can be sick next weekend. And except for I think I have that might not work either. Hayden's baptism is I think next Sunday. Pretty sure. We have retreat registration begins on Tuesday for those that were at spring retreat, and then open registration begins Wednesday. So that'll keep me busy those 2 days. So that's about it. That's all I really know. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you get some great stitching time in. Again, thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. If you're not subscribed, I'd sure appreciate it if you would subscribe. And I think I'll let you go. So have a great weekend. You take care until next time, which should be Saturday. Fingers crossed. Bye.